Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to make a base for the ornament with the birdhouse ornaments we've been making. This is pretty plain, and I decided to do one a little bit better. This one has a little bit of a dome to it. It's got a little cove in it. It's got a chamfer on the bottom. And to make all that finished on the outside, we have to reverse it and make a recess here for chuck to expand in. So we'll just take a block of wood, pretty rough. It's kiln dry, but it's rough sawn, and make a nice base. So the way I do that, we have there's a little center point of when I drew the circle. So we're just going to jam it up against the chuck. And that'll be enough to hold it right there without any problem. So what we want to do is round it and then put make a tenon on one end of it. And we'll just use this 5/8 detail gouge. It's a good versatile tool. And you don't want to come all the way to the end of it because it'll tear the grain out, so we'll come back from the opposite direction and move that. Check that out. There's no flat spots, but I'm going to true it up a little bit. You can just pivot the tool over. You don't have to do too much, just swing it. And now we're going to make a tenon. Something like that. We want to make sure we have a good square shoulder. We want those jaws hitting level up against this outside rim. So that'll be enough to put it in the jaws. We can just reverse it. Like I said, this is piece of rough sawn wood. So what we'll have to do is true that up. We'll just use a pull cut, draw cut. I don't really like having these jaws sticking that far out, but sometimes you just gotta do it, but you gotta be very careful not to get anywhere close to those. It really would be dangerous. So keep that in mind. Keep your hands behind the tool rest. Don't rest your hand up there. Look at that, make sure There's no torn grain there. And now we will, this will be the bottom of the base that we're making. So what we'll do is just hollow that out. I'll use a beading parting tool for that. Piece of 3/8 steel. And I'll use it like a, just a negative rake scraper. Okay, that ought to be enough of a recess to the jaws to expand into. Well, let's go ahead and put a chamfer on here while we have it in this position here. And we'll have to cut, you know, you have to cut it from the bottom out where the grain won't tear out. If you went in this way, it would tear it out. So we just want about a 45-degree chamfer. It always looks better when you have something sitting on a table to have a chamfer on the bottom of it, whether it's a vase or a bowl or whatever. Yeah, we could sand that with a little 180 grit paper here. I'll turn the speed down just a little. You just want to make sure it's not going to rock when you set it down. So it's got to be flat or tapered in a little bit. Now, just enough to hold it nice and firm. It's up against the jaws. So this is going to be the top of our little base here. We can make a cove out of this area. And you can do this with a lot of different tools. Bowl gouge, a spindle gouge, lower the tool rest. You'd be cutting on the center. This area here we're going to make a little cove. It's a little sweep sweeping cut there. We'll give it a little shadow line that makes it a whole lot more interesting than just a round block of wood. You got to look at the profile to see what it's looking like. I can see a little low spot right here, so take those last cuts, make sure there's no torn grain. You can remove the tool marks, but you don't want any torn grain. Now we can sand that. Start off with some 180 on that. Turn that speed down a little bit. Most of the time I use my little dust extractor, but it's kind of noisy. This is not going to be much dust anyway. Just make a little bend in your paper where it will fit right in that cove. Just keep the sandpaper moving. Break the sharp edges there. You want it to, if you pick it up, you don't want any sharp edges. It just doesn't feel right. Okay, now we can go to I'm kind of jumping here. This is 400, but I think it's going to work fine. It's better to only go, you know, like 180, go to 220 or 320, but this is just a base for a little Christmas ornament. And then a lot of times you have to go with the grain, just sand the radial scratches out of it. Go back to our 180. Now we already have our center marked to drill our little hole for our metal hanger, and that's going to be good enough for that. I'll show you how I drill the hole here. Trying to find the right size drill bit for these hangers is a problem sometimes. So I'll just take a piece of the welding rod that I'm using. I believe it's 3/32, and just go right in there. perfectly in there. You can just leave it loose, you can glue it, however you want to do it. But anyway, it's pretty quick and simple. You can make a lot of those bases for different Christmas tree ornaments or whatever. So anyway, that might help folks to turn some ornaments. A lot of fun.